Today we're going to be breaking down some of Tank Dell's best route running from the 2023 NFL season. He's one of the best, twitchiest route runners in the game, and that's what we're going to be breaking down today, the reason why behind his routes and why he is able to create so much separation. So this first route here is going to be just pretty much like 15 back to 12-yard curl. You could think of it as a stop route, but we're going to be breaking down how he's able to get into his breaks so quickly and get that separation at the top of the route. So first things first on every single route, whether this DB is off in zone coverage or whether he's in press coverage, our goal is to make him think we are running deep, right? We have to sell a fade. Everything is a fade until it is not. And Tank Dell does an extremely good job of that. Even on routes where he's just running a 3-step slant or this like 15-yard curl route, it looks the exact same all the way up until the break point. It looks like he's just trying to take this DB over the top on a fade, on a deep post, and that's why he's so dangerous, because he's able to sell vertical and he's able to change direction on a dime. So what actually goes into selling vertical? There's three things that I want you to think about. Number one, you got to make sure that you're running hard. If a DB is not threatened by our speed, he is not going to backpedal. He's not going to open up his hips. We actually have to attack him and run at pretty much a controlled full speed. I'm not going to say 100% like balls to the wall, don't have any control, but you want to be somewhat controlled. It's a controlled full speed. I would say like 95 to 97%. Number two, you got to make sure that we have long strides. I think a lot of wide receivers, because maybe they're not confident in this hip drop at the break, and we're going to talk about that in a second, how you guys can get more confident with it, how you can drop your hips correctly at the break like this. But a lot of guys aren't super confident with this. So what they'll do is right before the break point, they'll have long strides. And let's say the route's at about 15. At around like 12 yards, they start taking really short and choppy strides to slow themselves down so they have some control at the break point. Guys, we can't do that. The second this DB starts to feel our stride change, that changes our speed, and he's no longer threatened by the fade. We're going to lose separation. And last but not least, this is more so for, I guess, in zone coverage, this DB is watching the wide receiver's body language, but I would say this is more so for man coverage, but it still helps. You want to have this on every single route that you run. Just because it's zone, you don't want to neglect this, and that is a good pad level position, a pad level position that sells vertical. Same deal. A lot of wide receivers are not comfortable with this hip drop at the break point. So what they'll do is that right before the break, they'll raise their chin up, they'll pop their chest up in the air so they have more momentum on the hip drop so they could get lower, because getting low is important. But guys, when you raise up with your chin and your chest, your hips also raise. And a disciplined DB who's keyed in on our hips, when he sees our hips raise, he's no longer thinking it's a fade. We don't want to give any indicators. And we're going to show a couple examples of Tank Dell doing this throughout this entire video. So no indicators to the break point. Now, let's talk about the hip drop, right? Tank Dell, I'm sure all of you guys have seen the different clips of him at training camp, practice, at the Senior Bowl, where he's got these explosive breaks that he's able to drop into, especially on routes like this where he has to drop his hips. How is he able to do that? Now, before we break down the hip drop, you guys, if you're a wide receiver and you would like to train with myself and my staff of coaches this offseason, we're going to be coming out to 9 more states across the country for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver training camp. So guys, check out that very first link in the description below if you guys are interested in attending. Our next camp will be in Dallas, Nashville, Chicago, Buffalo. All those camps are completely sold out. Our Philadelphia camp is completely sold out, but we have available spots in Atlanta and Houston, and Detroit, Boise, and Los Angeles, you guys. So guys, if you would like to attend these camps or be added to a wait list for any of our sold out events, check out that very first link in the description below. Again, we'd love to have all you guys out there to our 2-day-long QB and wide receiver camps. Let's get back to this video. So now let's talk about the hip drop here from Tank Dell. So when we were pushing vertical, I would say kind of an old school method at the top of the break that a lot of receiver coaches or just coaches in general would teach is, when you get to the break point, you want to beat the drum, right? So what does beat the drum mean? That means like literally like you almost want to be like you're playing the drums with your hands in a sense. So like your hands are moving fast and you're supposed to chop your feet, and that's how you're going to slow down. That's completely wrong. That is extremely slow. You're going to take a million different steps at the top of the break, especially when you have some speed going into the break. You can't just rely on your hands and your feet to chop to be able to slow you down. You have to lower your center of gravity. You have to lower your pad level, and you got to have this violent drop of your body weight, right? So this first step into this break, we call this the trigger step, right? So the trigger step, I guess you'd call it that because it triggers the hip drop. It triggers the change of direction. That's the step that we want to drop on. Some people call it, quote unquote, snapping down. So when you snap down at the break point, there's a couple things that I tell my receivers. I say that you almost want to try to tie your shoes with your hands, but it's, again, you're trying to tie your shoes as quickly as possible. I will also tell my receivers, pretend there's a string attached to your chin, and as soon as it's time to break, somebody pulled that string straight down to your knee as quickly as possible. Because guys, if we're running full speed, the only way I'm going to be able to stop on a dime is by having that violent drop on my hips. I'm attacking the break point by shooting my hips down as low as I can. So think tie the shoes with the hands. That's how low we ultimately want to get. And somebody is pulling that string down to put me in that shoe tie position. And when that happens, guys, we're going to be able to decelerate. Now, a lot of people, a lot of coaches out there will spend a lot of time talking about steps at the top of the break. Like, oh, you want to get out in 2 steps. You want to get out in 3 steps. Some people will even say 1 step on a break like this, which is crazy to me. But look how many steps Dell takes here. He goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and he's out of this break, right? So 5 steps. At the end of the day, guys, what's more important is you being able to change direction on a dime and you being able to push vertical into the break. Would we like it in 3 steps? Absolutely. That's what we want to shoot for. But what gets us separation is our stem pushing vertical and not having any indicators into the break. I'd rather have 5 steps, but you attack the break, you drop on a dime, you're being violent, you got that DB to backpedal, than for you to worry so much about your steps that you start taking choppy steps and slow down before the cut. Okay, so guys, this is a textbook example here about a cut on a dime from Tank Dell. We're going to play at full speed one more time, then we're going to get into the next route from him. So now, next thing, this is Tank Dell. He's going to be running kind of it's an interesting route. It's almost like he breaks into a like out route or a corner route, and then he just puts the brakes right on. It's almost like the opposite of a post curl, I guess you could say in a sense. But I want you to pay attention to his very first cut on this. And let's look at his body language and how well he's able to self-vertical to get this DB to backpedal and ultimately speed turn out of there, which gets him a ton of space. So he's pushing vertical, cuts right on a dime, puts the brakes on, and you see the separation he's able to get, right? Guys, that is the main key whenever you are cutting into a route like a corner, like a post, like, even just like a 3-step slant, you guys. When we have to cut off a 1 foot, the same principles apply as when I'm dropping my hips. I can't have any indicators into this movement. So let's talk about it, right? So what's going to get this DB to start to backpedal? What's going to get this DB to bail out of there? Us selling fade. So we have to make sure that I'm running hard, obviously. I got to make sure that I'm running with long strides, and I got to make sure that I have great body language. I say you almost want to take a photo of your body language. At 5 yards, your body language, your pad level should look the exact same at 12, 15 yards, wherever the break point is. You should be able to take a photo of you at 5 and a photo of you at 15 and not be able to tell what your body language is doing. Now, before he gets into this cut here, you see how there's no over-exaggeration of the cut. So often what wide receivers will do when they have to run a corner and out, a post, and they're cutting off of that 1 foot, they will reach outside of their body frame and try to over-exaggerate the movement to try to sell it, to try to get the DB to bite, whatever. Guys, you want to shoot that foot almost down into the grass as quickly as you can. I don't want to reach. I want that foot to almost shoot down. I'm stepping down because I need that foot to be inside of my body frame, right? The reason why we want this cut to be inside of your body frame, which essentially means like within your shoulders. If you step like super far outside your shoulders and your foot is way outside your frame, we are not going to be able to push off of this cut. That's why we have to be inside my frame. If that cut is inside my body frame, I could push off the middle arch of my foot and get me out of this break with little to no wasted steps. You see how Tank Dell's next step is already getting him out of the route. A lot of guys, what they will do is they will reach outside their frame. They'll be cutting on their heel first. Their chest will start to lean back. And not only is that an indicator, but when that foot's outside your frame, you don't have any balance, right, guys? I think we all can agree if we were trying to stand on 1 foot and balance, you would have to stand with that foot inside your shoulder frame. You step outside your shoulder frame, you're going to fall over. So we need that same type of thing at the break point, right? He cuts inside of his body frame because he can push now. But when that foot's outside of my frame, that back foot has to drag. I got to take extra steps almost in place, and that will allow that DB to recover. But when that cut is inside your frame, you guys, we could push out and we could get up into this next cut, next break, sell the first move if it's a double move, or just get more separation because I'm not wasting any time at the break point. Now, what are some cues that can help you guys cut like this, right? Something I tell my wide receivers is make sure the ball of your foot hits the ground first. A lot of times when wide receivers like to reach and they have this big drag of their back foot, like I mentioned, their heel hits the ground first. If the ball of the foot makes contact with the ground first, I'm not saying you have to keep your heels off the ground because it's extremely hard to cut just on your toes when you're running full speed like this, when we actually have to sell vertical. Your whole foot can get down, but the ball of the foot needs to hit first because that will ensure that that foot is inside of your body frame. Now, another thing I tell guys is when it comes to your pad level leading into the break, a lot of guys love when they reach what do? They lean back, like I mentioned. So I'll tell guys to keep their chest slightly ahead of their waist going into the break, because when your chest is slightly ahead of your waist, that makes sure that we don't lean back. And if we don't lean back, usually that can prevent the reach. So now it's just a matter of repping out that movement to get your cut like this. But guys, Tank Dell, the way he's able to get into breaks, a lot of people will say, oh, you can't teach this. He just moves a certain way. And maybe you won't move exactly like him, but you absolutely can get more efficient by studying film and studying clips of the way he runs routes. That is a textbook route there by Dell and a textbook single cut at the break. Now, guys, if you are an athlete, wide receiver, quarterback, and you would like to improve your speed, we just started posting content on our new YouTube channel called First Down Athletes. So if you search up First Down Athletes on YouTube, we are uploading speed drills, exercise that you guys can do, speed content, supplement content, all things that can help you get faster in the offseason as a football player, bigger, put on more size, and improve your ultimate health to make you a better athlete. So guys, if you want to check out our content on that, subscribe to the channel. We would really appreciate it. It's called First Down Athletes. If you just search up First Down Athletes, all one word on YouTube, you will find our channel. We would really appreciate if you subscribed and started keeping up with the content we upload on there. All of our speed drills, all of our videos will be posted on there from now on. So guys, hope you can check that out. First Down Athletes. We would really appreciate any subscribing, any watching of the content, guys. So we hope it can give you some value. Let's get back to this video. So now, something that I think is underrated about Tank Dell is how he's able to work without the ball in his hands. So we're going to be showing an example of a scramble drill situation. So this is Tank Dell. He's going to be running a corner post. CJ Stroud gets out of the pocket and rolls, and he ultimately works with him to make a huge play downfield. So he breaks off on this corner, sells the corner, breaks back to the post. He's open. Stroud's got to get out of the pocket, turns upfield, right? Is able to make this play downfield for a huge touchdown grab. So let's talk about why this works, right? So guys, on a scramble drill, rule of thumb, scramble drill is when the quarterback's either going to get out of the pocket and roll to the right, or he's going to roll to the left. And this is something I don't talk a lot about on this channel, right? Because, for me, because I have experience with the quarterback position, a lot of it is just common sense. But for a lot of receivers who don't have that experience, it's not common sense. And they'll run their route, and when they see the quarterback roll out of the pocket, they'll just kind of sit there in no man's land. So this is something that can help you in a live game situation. So he's running a corner post, right? So he breaks to the corner and he sells this route. He's open on the post. But Stroud is having to get out of the pocket and roll out to the right. So anytime, this is the rule of thumb, if you're running an inside breaking route and this quarterback is rolling out, you want to turn it into an outside breaking route. So if I'm running just a regular old post, I'm turning it into a corner. If I'm running a corner post, I'm turning it into a corner. Or if I'm running, corner post, turn it into a corner. If I'm running a dig, I'm turning it into an out route. That's the rule of thumb. Now, if this quarterback starts to roll to the right, and let's say you're working just a regular old corner, you don't want to just stop there. You probably want to work back to the inside. I'm not saying go run a deep post on the other side of the field because he ain't going to make that throw from over here, but try to work something back to the inside. Quarterbacks can hit this throw, guys. If they're rolling out to the right, if you're maybe like 2 yards to the inside of them, they could hit that throw. So again, if you're running an inside breaking route, convert it to an outside route. If you're running an outside route, convert it to an inside route. Now, if you're running a deep route, you want to come back down and run a short route. If you're running a short route, you want to turn it up into a deep route. So you pretty much essentially just do the opposite. Now, unless you're on the left side of the field and you're running like a post and that quarterback's rolling out in this direction, continue on your post. You just always want to make sure that you work with the quarterback. And that's something that Tank Dell does a lot of. And that's why he's such a threat, guys, downfield, because he knows how to work without the ball in his hands. And this is a perfect example of that, working that scramble drill with his QB.